Hi. In accordance with the International Day for the Preservation of Ozone Layer, let's take some time to understand a little more about ozone. September 6th was designated by the United Nations General Assembly as the International Day for the Preservation of the Ozone Layer. This designation had been made on December 19, 2000 in commemoration of the date in 1987 on which nations signed the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer. Now, what is the ozone layer? The ozone layer, ozone shield, is a region of Earth's stratosphere that absorbs most of the sun's ultraviolet radiation. It contains high concentration of ozone in relation to other parts of the atmosphere, although still small in relation to other gases in the stratosphere. The ozone layer contains less than 10 parts per million of ozone, while the average ozone concentration in Earth's atmosphere as a whole is about 0.3 parts per million. The ozone layer absorbs about 99% of the sun's medium frequency ultraviolet light, which otherwise would potentially damage exposed life forms near the surface. In 1976, atmospheric research revealed that the ozone layer was being depleted by chemicals released by industries, mainly CFCs. Concerns that increased UV radiation due to ozone depletion threatened life on Earth, including increased skin cancer in humans and other ecological problems, led to ban on the chemicals, and the latest evidence is that ozone depletion has slowed or stopped. The United Nations General Assembly has designated September 16th as the International Day for the Preservation of the Ozone Layer.
The Earth is covered with a thin layer of gas called the atmosphere. Atmospheric pressure decreases rapidly as we move away from the surface in the region known as the stratosphere, far above the troposphere, in which all our weather occurs. The atmosphere is very thin. Here, short wavelength high energy radiation from the sun causes the dissociation of oxygen molecules when short wavelengths of ultraviolet light strikes on an oxygen molecule. It dissociates into oxygen atom, and when an oxygen atom collides with an oxygen molecule, ozone molecule O3 is formed. The O3 molecule that is formed has high excess energy. If that does not get rid of that excess energy, it rapidly dissociates back into oxygen molecule and get rid of that excess energy. It rapidly dissociates back into oxygen molecule and oxygen atom. And this process is simultaneous. The ozone molecules are very efficient at absorbing UV radiations. The thin layer of ozone that surround the earth act as a shield protecting the planet from the irradiations of UV light. It also reduces human exposure to harmful UV radiation that causes skin cancer and cataracts.
Some compounds release chlorine or bromine when they are exposed to intense UV light in the stratosphere. These compounds contribute to ozone depletion and are called ozone depleting substances. Ozone depleting substances that release chlorine include chlorofluorocarbons, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, carbon tetrachloride, and methyl chlorophor. Ozone depleting substances that release bromine include halones and methyl bromide. Although ozone depleting substances are emitted at the Earth's surface, they are eventually carried into the stratosphere in a process that can take as long as 2 to 5 years. When chlorine and bromine atoms come into contact with ozone in the stratosphere, they destroy ozone molecules. One chlorine atom can destroy over 1 lakh ozone molecules before it is removed from the stratosphere. Ozone can be destroyed more quickly than it is naturally created.
World governments agreed in the late 1980s to protect the Earth's ozone layer by phasing out ozone depleting substances emitted by human activities under the Montreal Protocol. In 1987, to address the destruction of the ozone layer, the international community established by the Montreal Protocol on ozone depleting substances. It was the first international treaty to be signed by all countries of the world and is considered the greatest environmental success story in the history of United Nations. The Montreal Protocol's objective is to cut down the production and consumption of ozone-depleting substances in order to reduce their presence in the atmosphere and thus protect the Earth's ozone layer. How can we protect the ozone layer? Avoid the consumption of gases dangerous to the ozone layer due to their content or manufacturing process. Some of the most dangerous gases are chlorofluorocarbons, halogenated hydrocarbon, methyl bromide, and nitrous oxide. Minimize the use of cars. Do not use cleaning products that are harmful to the environment and to us. Maintain air conditioners as their malfunctions causes CFCs to escape into the atmosphere.